أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين بارئ الخلائق أجمعين باعث الأنبياء والمرسلين ثم الصلاة والسلام على أشرفهم أجمعين حبيب قلوبنا وطبيب نفوسنا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وعلى آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين لا سيما بقية الله في الأرضين واللعنة الدائمة على أعدائهم أجمعين من يومنا هذا إلى قيام يوم الدين رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي وقال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم إن لقتل الحسين حرارة في قلوب المؤمنين لن تبرد أبدا صلوات صلى الله عليه وسلم. Dear brothers and sisters, it is Laylatul Ashura. It is the night of Ashura, Shab-e Ashur. It is no ordinary night tonight. And we can feel that with all of our existence. Every cell in our body can feel that tonight is no ordinary night. Each one of us can sense that the flower of the love of Imam Hussain alayhi salam, the love for Hussein's family, his companions, the love for what he stood for and for his mission, which had begun to flower about 10 nights ago, it has now bloomed. It has now bloomed and presents itself in its full form and beauty tonight and tomorrow as well. That flame that Hussein has lit in our hearts on nights such as tonight blazes forth in complete brilliance. And though the lights have been switched off in this hall, I am sure the angels can see this hall shining and radiant, full of light, because of this blazing fire of love of Hussein in our hearts tonight. And along with this love for Hussein and Hussainism that blazes forth in our hearts, we can also feel revulsion and dislike for that which opposes Hussein and opposes Hussainism. Dear brothers and sisters, our sixth Imam, Imam Jafar as-Sadiq alayhi salatu wassalam, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajal. He was asked by one of his companions, it has been narrated. One of the companions says, Sa'altu Aba Abdullah, I asked Imam Sadiq, Al-Hubbu wal-Bughd ahuwa min al-Iman? Love and revulsion, love and hatred, is this a part of faith? Is it a part of Iman? He seeks to understand what religion is and what it includes. Our sixth Imam replies with another question. A question that answers the first question. The Imam replies to ask this person, and in fact to ask all of us. Halil iman illa al-hubbu wal-bughz. Is faith, is religion anything other than love and revulsion, liking and disliking? The questioner wanted to know if love and revulsion, love and hatred are a part of deen and faith. The Imam says it is deen and faith. Love for what, dear brothers and sisters? On a night such as this, we know that love for Imam Hussein, love for Hussein's family members, love for his father, his mother, his brother, his descendants, his grandfather, and for everything they stood for brotherhood, for unity, for compassion, for caring, charity, intellectualism, peace, and justice. And therefore, if this is what Hussainism is, this is what Islam is, it's perfectly valid to say that deen and faith and iman are nothing but love and revulsion. Love and revulsion that then leads to action and provides direction in our lives. And when we have spoken of revulsion and hatred here, that's pretty obvious as well. What is it that we hate? Or perhaps who is it that we hate? Do we dislike or hate those who are not among us here today? Of course not. Those who are not Shia, do we dislike them? Do we hate them? Not at all. When Imam Hussein alayhi salatu wasalam himself set out for Islahi Ummat, and it is for the reformation of the Ummat that he sacrificed himself and his children, how can we feel any kind of disdain or hatred for this Ummat? If it is good enough for Imam Hussein to sacrifice himself, the Ummat is good enough for me to sacrifice myself and that which has been granted to me by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Bas, do we hate non-Muslims then? When faith is nothing but love and hatred, do we hate non-Muslims? Not at all. Not at all. Not at all. Because as we know, Imam Hussein was seeking Islahi Ummat so that this Ummat can play its correct role of being Khaira Ummatin, which can benefit all of humanity, can spread goodness and virtue and piety and obedience to Allah among all of humanity and all the communities on this earth. There is no question. Do we hate sinners then? It is often said that we should hate the sin but not the sinner. And this is a sensible thing. And the teachings of Islam support this viewpoint to a large degree. Sinners, Muslim sinners, non-Muslim sinners, they are worthy of our compassion and our care and our concern. And that is why we seek to bring them out of the cesspool of sin, just as we seek to climb out of the cesspool of sin if we find ourselves in it ourselves. And that is true. It is sin which is hated essentially more than sinners. But dear brothers and sisters, there comes a time, there are certain exceptional individuals, very rare, that their life and their mission in life becomes one of spreading corruption and sin on earth. They seek their lowly to satisfy their lowly desires by pushing things like enmity, wars, promoting wars, spreading addiction to harmful substances. And when it comes to this, since this sinner, perhaps it can be said, has now begun to manifest sin itself at this point, we think it is befitting to hate such certain individuals. Is there anyone among us, for example, who will say, I do not hate Yazid, but I only hate that which he did? Of course not. So, dear brothers and sisters, tonight is a different kind of night. A night where, according to our traditions, right from the sunset that has passed a couple of hours ago till the sunset that is to follow, this period is Ashura, night and day. And during this time, we who seek to emulate the household of the Prophet have been guided to spend this period in a different way. Alhamdulillah, we will engage in mourning tonight and tomorrow morning. There are certain a'mal to be performed tomorrow. Inshallah, I hope that all of us will be able to participate in those gatherings. In addition to that, there are certain a'mal for tonight as well, certain salat, namaz for tonight. You can look those up easily on the internet. I won't take your time by describing them. This is a night where we have been encouraged to stay awake as well tonight. And it has been said that somebody who, from our narrations, we have that somebody who prays and engages in ibadah tonight is as if he has engaged in 70 years of ibadah with the angels. So it is a night of staying awake, engaging in prayer and ibadah. It is a night of feeling grief and appearing as if we are struck by grief, which we are. And therefore it is a night when the way we dress, the way we talk, the way we meet and greet each other, all that changes. And inshallah we will be able to spend the next 24 hours in a way that benefits us and that pleases the Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. Dear brothers and sisters, over the last few nights, because tonight is the last opportunity that we have to engage in this conversation before we enter the climax of mourning, Ashura itself. Over the last few nights, we have been trying, dear brothers and sisters, to improve our connection with Hussein and Karbala. Part of this has been through recounting the heart-rending tragedy of Karbala and grieving and crying and mourning over it, because without grieving, mourning and crying, we cannot improve our connection. But part of it has been an effort to increase our ma'rifah, our understanding and knowledge about Karbala and about Hussein. For example, we have tried to acquire a better understanding of what Imam Hussein's goals and purpose was. We've seen, for example, Imam Hussein calling out as he's leaving from Karbala, Inni lam akhruj bataran wala ashara. I'm not departing and rebelling and leaving from Karbala seeking any kind of glory for myself due to arrogance and a desire to rule over others. No. Wala mufsidan wala zalima. I do not seek to spread corruption in the earth by taking this stand of rejection. Nor do I seek to oppress anybody. Innama kharajtu li talabil islafi ummati jatti. We saw that. We saw Ihya Amr as being another goal and vision for the Husseini movement and for these efforts of pitching the tent of Azza. Before I carry on, I would like you to request to come forward while reciting Salawat on Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli. There is a lot of empty space ahead. Please kindly come forward, and It doesn't necessarily have to be in sequence. Even those who are at the back can stand up and come straight to the front. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. Thank you. Thank you. Jazakallah. Please come ahead. Jazakallah. Thank you very much. Thank you. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajal. We've tried to get a sense of that. We've tried to get a sense of some of the methods that Imam Hussein used to achieve his goal. For example, we looked at the asymmetric method of confrontation and warfare that he engaged in. If the Yazidis rely on fear and threat, Imam Hussein will counter that with love and ishq. We saw that, for example. We've seen, I'm just recounting some highlights of what we've discussed over the last few nights so that we can bring our discussion to a meaningful conclusion, I hope, inshallah. We've seen how Imam Hussein alayhi salam, his movement was, apart from being a movement of great love, passion and obedience, it was entirely logical and sensible as well. At every step of the way, the decision that Hussein took, his followers took, these were all sensible and logical decisions, once again setting a role model for us to follow. And we've acquainted ourselves with some personalities. Our acquaintance with some personalities has increased, most of all, Hussein ibn Ali himself. But of course, his followers, we've seen that the blazing loyalty of Hazrat Abbas, for example. We've seen how children in the Husseini camp, children such as On, Muhammad, Qasim, they have achieved a great level of intellectual ability and understanding because of growing up in this culture of Husseinism, much, much earlier than kids who are outside this culture. And we've acquired understanding and some familiarity with figures such as Ubaidullah ibn Hurjofi, who is invited and called by Imam Hussein. Imam Hussein goes to his tent to meet him and asks him to join in. But he doesn't have the courage. And what was the courage that he was lacking? Not the courage to battle and wave his sword around, because he was a famous military commander. The courage to imagine, to think big, to be ambitious when envisioning, going beyond the dreadful conditions of the present time, the fact that the Kufans have refused to support Hussein and have allowed Muslim to be martyred. Going beyond that and seeing the future the way Hussein and his followers were able to see them. We've seen characters such as this as well. And we've seen, dear brothers and sisters, that Karbala offers us solution, answer to every important question in our lives. We are able to meet all our needs from Karbala with the help of Hussein ibn Ali in the maktab and the school of Husseinism, if we know how to approach it in the right way. And one of the most important questions that Karbala helps us to answer, dear brothers and sisters, is how is it that we, you and I, those of us who are here in this day and age, can establish a meaningful connection with their Imam. Karbala helps us get to an answer in this. We saw last night that Karbala provides us a model. Hussein ibn Ali is the Imam of his time. We have an Imam of our time. Hussein ibn Ali, the Imam of his time, is on a mission. He has a purpose. The purpose is to spread word in the Muslim Ummah that it is time to reject Yazid. The Imam of our time has a purpose. His main purpose pertains to the period after his reappearance, and that is to fill all of this earth, the entire world, with justice. To achieve his purpose, Hussein ibn Ali has adopted a certain path and strategy, and that is to sacrifice himself and all that he holds dear so that Islam can stay alive. Our Imam has adopted his own strategy. His strategy, guided by Allah, is to be in occultation, in ghaibah, while guiding and helping his followers to become strong enough and influential enough to be able to help him when he reappears. So at the level of Imam, we see a model and a similarity, something that allows us to shape our own lives and answer that most important question of all: how is it that we can establish a meaningful connection? When it comes to the followers of the Imam, Karbala provides us a model as well. Considering what the goals, purposes, and the main strategies of Hussein ibn Ali as the Imam of his time were, his followers know what they need to do. First, they understand and accept his goals and strategies, completely embrace them, and then invest everything that they have so that the Imam can achieve success. And the Imam did achieve success. Islam has survived because of Hussein ibn Ali and because of his followers who loyally and obediently followed him. It provides us a model as well. The aims and purposes of our Imam differ in detail when comparison to the aims and purposes of Hussein ibn Ali, the Imam of that time. But in terms of following him, in terms of understanding those aims and purposes firstly, and then investing everything that we have so that this purpose, this aim, these strategies can be successful. Hussein ibn Ali, his followers, and Karbala, they provide us a model in this regard as well. And therefore, it is commonly said that the Hussein of our time is our Imam. And if we seek to be the Zuhair, the Muslim, the Habib, the Hur of our time, we must submit to what his plan and strategies are and play a role in them, inshallah. So the most important question of our lives can be answered through the Karbala paradigm, through Hussainism. We saw that last night. I mentioned, dear brothers and sisters, I said this last night and earlier today as well, tonight as well, that this question is a question, this question of how can I be of use to my Imam? This is a question of such enormous significance and importance that all other questions pale into insignificance before this question. But perhaps I should restate this. It isn't so accurate to say that the other questions pale into insignificance. I think I should correct myself and restate this point. Dear brothers and sisters, all the other questions of our lives, what are the other questions? What kind of career goals should I have? Who should I marry? Those who are the young people here. What sort of academic goals should I have? How should I bring my children up? How many children should I have? What is the right level of charity to engage in? Who should I be friendly with? What should my relationship with individuals from other communities be? How committed and serious should I be about staying away from sin? Worship, prayer, what should it be like in my life? Many other questions. I think it is incorrect and inaccurate to say that these questions pale into insignificance in comparison to the question of how should I establish a connection with my Imam, and therefore it would be better for me to restate it in this way. Dear brothers and sisters, these other questions, rather than paling into insignificance in comparison to this central question, if we are to answer the central question, these other questions suddenly light up and rise up in importance. And their answers become very, very valuable. When we ask ourselves the question, what should my career goals be? The answer becomes, I should have career goals which help my Imam meet his goals. When I ask this question, who should I marry? What kind of a man or a woman should I marry? When I ask this question, the answer becomes easy. I should marry a person who will help me and I will be able to help him or her achieve those lofty goals and purposes of our Imam. What about our kids? How many kids should we have? We should have as many kids as we can so that we can play a better role as a family in helping the Imam achieve his vision. What about charity? Where should I spend in charity? Well, we can judge that looking at what would be the effect of different kinds of charity. And dear brothers and sisters, charity is not just by money alone. A lot of charity has to do with spending our time and effort, something that we frequently neglect to do. And so on and so forth. What should be our relationship with other communities? You all live in Singapore, a multicultural, multiracial city and country. It's a very important question. This question, rather than paling into insignificance, suddenly becomes very, very important, bright and easy to answer. Karbala provides us with this paradigm of approaching every single issue in our lives with a Husseini view, a view essentially forged in love and commitment and passion and a desire to serve the center of Imamat, the center of Wilayat. And dear brothers and sisters, you can easily guess from this that when we take this approach in our lives, when we are able to adopt this in our lives, at that point, things that may engage some of us a lot prior to that. For example, I frequently come across people who ask me this question. They ask me, Maulana, how should I balance deen and dunya? How should I balance this world, this worldly life and the religious life? When we approach this issue from the Husseini standpoint and apply it to our age and our Imam, this question evaporates. Because this question presupposes that there is a section of our life which pertains to deen and there is another section of our life that does not pertain to deen. But when we approach it in the Husseini paradigm, we see that no, this is not the case. Everything is part of the Husseini paradigm and its reapplication for our Imam's age and time. So the question no longer needs to be framed as how to balance between deen and dunya, but it needs to be framed in the context of how to balance between different aspects of deen itself. We know that charity, if carried out excessively, will cause problems with our other fundamental duties pertaining to our own family. We know that prayer and ibadah, if not carried out in the right measure, will make us an unproductive part of society. It may pull us back from certain career goals and academic goals. We know that focusing excessively on building relationships with other communities while neglecting the need for strengthening our own relationships will cause further problems. So the question changes from one of being balancing deen and dunya to being a question of balancing different aspects of deen itself. And this, dear brothers and sisters, is not easy to do. This is not easy to do. When it comes to balancing deen and dunya, most of us at least have a fairly good understanding of the dunya, or at least that part of the dunya that we are engaged with. The city we live in, the country we live in, the sector that we work in, our field, our market, our business, we know that. But when it comes to deen, our knowledge is limited. And therefore, if the fundamental question of our life has been translated into balancing different parts of deen, we can understand the essential role and our great need for the guidance of our ulama in this case. And the life-giving role of guidance that they can play. And alhamdulillah, the Husseini model provides for this as well. Dear brothers and sisters, we know, for example, that Imam Hussein alayhi salam sent Hazrat Muslim to Kufa. And it is found in our narrations that he sent Hazrat Muslim with the express purpose of doing two things. One is finding out what the situation is over there, and this you have repeatedly heard. But from some narrations it appears that he also gave him the responsibility of taking whatever decision he feels is necessary. For example, if he feels that even before Hussein arrives, he needs to initiate a revolution, he can do that. We see this model in Hussein, and we can see this model in our age and time as well. Similarly, at the Battle of Karbala itself, we have all these followers, we have all these lovers, those who are willing to sacrifice everything for Imam Hussein. But does everyone have the same duty and responsibility, dear brothers and sisters? No. There is, in the olden days, these armies, when they were laid out for battle, they used to be divided into sections. In Arabic, the right-hand section used to be called the Maymana. The left-hand section used to be called the Maysara. The center used to be called Qalbul Jaysh, the heart of the earth. And we see that certain individuals, because of their abilities, their superior understanding, had been selected for these roles. For example, the Maymana had been handed to Habib ibn Mazahir. Who is Habib? Habib is the person who Imam Hussein alayhi salam in his letter inviting him addresses him as ila rajulil faqih. The person with superior understanding of religion and knowledge has been given this important task of leading the army. This provides us a model to emulate in our time as well. So, dear brothers and sisters, Karbala gives us what we need to lead a fulfilling life in every aspect of our lives. In every aspect of our lives. And therefore, it is entirely appropriate that we gather in such large numbers all over the world, year after year, to commemorate Karbala. It is entirely appropriate. It is entirely appropriate that we face difficulties. Just yesterday, there was a bomb blast at Sayyida Zainab, next to her shrine. Last I heard, about 6 to 8 people had been martyred. This is nothing. There have been in our lifetimes much larger massacres and attacks on such gatherings. And it is entirely appropriate that such sacrifices should be borne by us. Because that which Hussein and Karbala provides us generation after generation makes it all worthwhile. Makes it all worthwhile. In closing, I would just like to point to one aspect of this before we move to Masahib for tonight. Dear brothers and sisters, when we speak of religion and deen, sometimes when we speak of it, we speak of religion as if it is something that limits us. Something that limits us. We say that religion is a set of rules. You cannot do this, you cannot do that, you cannot do this. You must do this, you must do that. It limits us. And as mu'mineen, we say that yes, religion limits us, but we accept this limitation. We accept this limitation. We lovingly embrace it and shape our lives according to what we see as limitations. But dear brothers and sisters, I would invite us in the context of these discussions and these nights that we've spoken about Karbala to revisit this view of religion as a set of restrictions. As a set of restrictions. Dear brothers and sisters, is it more restrictive, for example, to be denied alcohol, for example? Or is it more restrictive for an entity and a creature such as man, which has been created for perfection, to be a slave to alcohol addiction? What restricts us more? The fact that we lose our ability to think when we are drunk, isn't that more restrictive than this restriction? Freedom from our base desires. Religion provides us with that. What is more degrading, humiliating for us? Is it the fact that we have to perform namaz or salat? That we have to dress in a certain way? Aren't we revolted when we see people around us, and you know such people around you, who are slaves to their desires, willing to break every rule, cut every throat for a few dollars? What is more degrading and humiliating? Where does freedom essentially lie? Was Hur free when he was in the Yazidi army? Of course, everyone would say, yes, he was free. He was leading commander in that army, well placed with a bright career ahead of him. But all of us know he felt humiliated, degraded in that position of so-called freedom. And it is when he crossed over to this side that Imam Hussain alayhi salam said, Anta hurrun fid dunya wal akhirah. Oh Hur, your mother has given you such a lovely and appropriate name. You are truly free. When was this? When he has been struck by bows and arrows, and the freedom that he enjoyed as a commander of a victorious army is no longer available for him. And therefore, dear brothers and sisters, we can ponder over what Imam Hussain alayhi salam said. It is said that in the final moments before his martyrdom, it is said while he was lying with just some strength and life left in him, the enemies wished to check whether he still is capable of battle. He is terribly wounded. But after all, he is Ali's son. He is the Imam of his time. Those who were fighting him were still afraid of him. And it is said that at that time, Umar ibn Saad shouted out aloud and said and called for the army to attack the tents. And this was done to test whether there is any life left in Hussein. And at that point it is said that Imam Hussein somehow managed to prop himself up on his elbows and called out to the army and said, Ya Shi'ata Ali Abi Sufyan, oh you who are the Shia. We pride ourselves on being Shia, but we are the Shia of Ali ibn Abi Talib. Oh you who are the Shia of the children of Abu Sufyan, of Bani Umayyah. In lam yakun lakum dinun, if you do not have any religion, wa kuntum la takhafun al ma'ad, and you have no fear of the day of judgment, fakunu ahraran fi dunyakum, at least be free men. Do not behave like degraded slaves. It is time for us to reconsider the relationship between freedom and religion, dear brothers and sisters. We can see a shining example of freedom on the night of Ashura, Laylatu Ashura. It is narrated from the fourth Imam that he says that I was unwell But I could see that. At a certain point in this night, the Imam gathered all his companions and his family members together. He gathered them together. They were all busy. If you know, this is the night where it is said, one of the enemy soldiers apparently has narrated this, that on this night when I came, I wanted to see what is going on in the Hussein's camp. So I approached it stealthily, and I could hear the buzzing of honeybees. And this was on account of the fact that somebody was reciting the Quran here, somebody was in ruku here, somebody was in sujood over here. People were conversing. This resembled the humming sound of honeybees, the buzzing of honeybees. And inshallah, we will be able to spend at least part of this night in prayer, in worship, just like they did on that night. During that night, the fourth Imam says that he gathered everyone. And he said that, look, this army, this Yazidi army, is baying for my blood. They are fundamentally after me. They have nothing to do with you. If they are after you, it is because you are with me. So I have a request to make. Firstly, I would like to tell you that I am very pleased with you. You have been very loyal. You have more than performed your duty. There is no need for you to be massacred and martyred tomorrow. Here, I hereby announce that I have released you from my bay'ah. You are no longer bound by any pledge that you may have made to support me. I release you. Go away. Go away. Each of you, for example, hold the hand of one of my family members. He tells the companions, because the enmity that they feel for the family is greater. Each one of you companions, hold the hand of one of my family members, and the two of you all go away. It's night time, nobody will see anything. But then what happens, you all know, brothers and sisters, nobody goes away. Imam Hussain then blows the lamp so that there is darkness. And in that darkness encourages them to go again. Because there was a possibility that perhaps they were not leaving because they felt embarrassed. So to eliminate this pressure of embarrassment and peer pressure, he darkens the tent, and now he asks them to leave. It's a wonderful opportunity, dear brothers and sisters. The Imam is telling you that you have done what was required. You can go. I want you to go. When the Imam lights the lamp again, he notices that they are all seated in exactly the same places as they were, with one difference, however. They are now crying. There is one difference. And now, for example, someone says, "Oh Imam, you are asking us to stay alive after they martyr you? What is the point of staying alive after they have martyred you?" You have someone else saying that if they were to cut my body up into 1,000 pieces, I would still serve you. You have Zuhair saying that if I was to be burnt and my ashes were to be scattered in the wind, and this was to be done to me 1,000 times, I would still stay with you, Imam Hussain. Dear brothers and sisters, this is a lesson for us. As I said, Hussain and Hussainism is full of lessons for us. These are people who have been told by their Imam that you can go. There is no need to stay. They are faced with a choice. They can either choose to stay, or they can tell themselves that, look, I'm an ordinary man. I have a house, I have a wife, I have kids. I need to take care of them. I have loans, I have installments to pay. I was a slave. John was there. I'm a slave. Slaves have no importance. I am a rich man. I have many responsibilities. I am a poor man. I was a Christian a couple of days ago. All of these are options open to them. They can say all this and then say, my Imam has asked me or told me that I am free to go. There is no sin in going anymore. There is no sin. There is no disobedience anymore. All these things of Islahi Ummat, Ihya al-Amr, all this is all too big. These are all nice things when we hear them from the mimbar and the pulpit. But look, I have to lead a life. They have this choice. But dear brothers and sisters, alhamdulillah, all of these companions and family members were sensible and smart people. And they made the right choice. That night, 1400 years ago, they made the right choice. Tonight, it is Shab-e Ashura and Laylatul Ashura. Again, dear brothers and sisters, it is now an opportunity for us to make the choice. There was an Imam in that time, there is an Imam at this time. He had a mission, and this Imam has a mission as well. It is after that this conversation happens, and all of them stay on, that Imam Hussain says, La a'lamu ashaban awfa wala khayran min ashabi. I do not know of any companions who were more faithful and loyal and better than my companions. I have been blessed with companions which are superior to the companions that my father and my grandfather were blessed with. This is the point, the choice that they made. A choice that they did not have to make, but they chose to make it because of their superior understanding. They were able to see that they have the chance to be connected with something infinite, something so high that nothing can be higher than that. They were able to recognize that they have this opportunity. And then they had the courage to accept this opportunity and to stay steadfast on this path till the end of their lives. It's a model for us. It's an example for us. It is after this, dear brothers and sisters, that Imam Hussain alayhi salam asked them to look up. The fourth Imam says, he asked them to look up and then showed them through his extraordinary powers of wilayat and imamat, the station and position that each of them would have in the hereafter. This is important to keep in mind. Let it not be misunderstood that it is because of this station that they stayed on. This station and position was showed to them after they had made the choice to stay on. Dear brothers and sisters, the next day, the day of Ashura, we encounter a heart-rending scene. We see Imam Hussain alayhi salam holding an infant in his hands and is saying, Ya qawm, in lam tarhamuni farhamu hadha tif. Ama tarawna kayfa yataladha atshana. Don't you see how this infant is moving his lips like a fish in its last moments? We've gone over this grief before. But dear brothers and sisters, after he had been martyred, after Hazrat Ali Asghar had been martyred, and after his blood had been cupped by his father in his hands, it is now the time for Imam Hussain to take this little martyr back to his mother. These are the last few moments of Ashura. These are the last few moments of preceding Imam Hussein's martyrdom. Right from the morning, dear brothers and sisters, Imam Hussain has been going to the battlefield, picking up martyrs and bringing them to the tent. Full-grown men, warriors, wearing heavy coats of armor. He's been carrying them back. But dear brothers and sisters, why is it that this little bundle which is now in his hand, this smallest of martyrs, why is it that Hussain is not able to walk back to the tent? The narrations say that he steps forward and then steps backward. Steps forward, then steps backward, all the while saying, Inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Finally, Imam Hussain reaches the tent. It is said that when he was approaching the tent, His little daughter Sakina rushes out of the tent to welcome. When Imam Hussain had taken Ali Asghar was restless with hunger and thirst. Now she can see that he is no longer restless. He is no longer moving about. He seems to be at peace. Oh Baba, oh my father, did they give Ali Asghar water? Do you have any more water? Can I have some as well? Imam Hussain opens his abba and shows what he has in his arm. Rabab rushes to her baby, holds him in his lap. Mithluka Yudba, is somebody like you, someone as precious, as innocent as you, slaughtered these days. Dear brothers and sisters, Imam Hussain had brought a lot of martyrs back to the tent, and all of them were being lined up in the tents. But when it came to this martyr, I don't know why, but Imam Hussain decided to do something else, it is said. He decided to bury this martyr. I don't know why, perhaps it was, he knew that they would rush into the tents, trampling over the bodies later on, and he wanted to protect this little body from the violence that was to follow. I don't know why, but he used his sword to dig a small grave next to the tent and buried his little baby, Ali Asghar, to keep him safe, But I will say, oh Imam Hussain, I wish you hadn't done this. Imam Hussain, and just left the baby with the other martyrs. Some have narrated, and there is disagreement about the authenticity of it, and I hope to God that it isn't true. But some have narrated that after Imam Hussain had been martyred, and after they rushed and barged into the tents to loot them, one of the things that they started to do was they started to behead the martyrs that had already not been beheaded. And that was because these heads were supposed to be carried back. They were supposed to be taken to Damascus and exchanged for reward and gold and silver. Each one who was responsible for the death of a shaheed, he was looking for his body so that he could behead that shaheed and take their head with it. The murderer of Qasim was looking for Qasim's body. The killer of Ali Akbar was looking for Ali Akbar's body. And so on and so forth. And it is said, and I hope it isn't true, that at this point, Harmala calls out and he says, where is the head that belongs to me? Where is the head that will ensure that I get my gold and silver? He cannot find it. Somebody says, I've heard that Hussein buried a little child. Harmala begins to look for Ali Asghar, using his spear, plunging it into the sand, here and there, hoping to find this body. Oh, I hope Rabab wasn't watching any of this. Can someone please tell me somebody has covered Sakina's eyes? Because there comes a time when the spear manages to hit something soft, something wrapped in a white piece of cloth, and another small head goes aloft atop a spear to be paraded from this city to that city, from this market to that market. لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم سيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون اللهم صل على محمد وآله